title, which is king, and it gives his territory, which is Great Britain and the dominions. So a typical seal has all those components, the title, and it has the name, and it has the territory. And without it, a law would be useless. It would have no authority. Now the Decalogue is a law. It is the law of God. Now this whole law has its authority only because it has a seal in it. God's seal is in the heart of God's law. Let's listen to this carefully. All the other commandments are just commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that, thou shalt not have another God besides me, thou shalt not use the name in vain, honor your parents and you will have a long life, etc. But here there's something special. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. For in 6 days the Lord, there's the name. That's Yahweh. That's God's name. We have a name. He made the heavens and the earth. So that is the title. He's the creator. And what is the dominion? Heaven, earth, sea, all that is in them. So there you have the dominion. All the elements are there. And without the Sabbath, the law would have no authenticity. It would be just another document. But now it has the stamp of God. Yahweh, your creator, dominion, heaven, earth, sea, everything, every nation, everything that was ever created is under my dominion. Now, if the United States makes a law, a new law, and proclaims a new law, then that law must be signed by whom before it comes into effect?
The President.
The President must sign it. And if the President doesn't sign it, the law is not valid. Is that right? All right. Now imagine, I always use a parable to explain this. Imagine we place ourselves back sometime there in the times of Germany. And Adolf Hitler comes to power, and he's so impressed with his power, he wants to make sure that there is no opposition. So he proclaims a law. It's just a hypothetical story, it's a nonsense story, but it's just there to illustrate a point. He proclaims a law, and he says, next Wednesday, 12 o'clock, I want the German people to come onto the streets and proclaim their solidarity for me by one voice shouting Heil Hitler on that particular day, on Wednesday at whatever time, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, let's say 12 o'clock. Everybody has to do it. And the Gestapo is out, and the military police is out, and the parades are full. How many of the German people would have appeared on the street that day? Just about everybody. And there they go, and when the clock strikes, they all show their solidarity. Now, I was so impressed with that I make a law, and I say, no. Next Thursday at 12 o'clock, everybody has to come onto the street and shout, Heil Walter Veith. Send that out to everyone in Germany. Next Thursday comes around, how many people appear on the streets? Not one single sausage. That's not fair. Why not? Why they do it for that bozo but not for me? What's the difference? I don't have the authority, I don't have the title, I don't have the jurisdiction. Does that make sense? So his counts, mine counts for nothing. Mine counts for nothing. I had the same law, but it means nothing. Well, Adolf Hitler got so excited when he got such a positive response. It never happened, by the way. But he decides to write the same law, and he sends it, let's say, to Russia. And says, next Wednesday, 12 o'clock, I want the Russian people on the roads and shouting the same thing. How many Russians would appear on the streets? Not one. Maybe they would appear to mock him. What's the difference? Why did it work in Germany and not in Russia?
Because he didn't have the power.
He didn't have the jurisdiction. He might have had a title, And he might have had all those things, but he didn't have the jurisdiction. So here we have all of these in one shot. The Lord, that's his name. We have the jurisdiction, we have the title, the creator, and we have the jurisdiction, which includes everything on earth and in heaven. So everybody has to obey him. This makes the law authentic and gives power to the whole of the law. Without the Sabbath, without that signature, the whole law becomes just another document with rules. Not saying where it comes from, not saying who has the authority. So the Lord, the Creator, heaven and earth, that is what authenticates the whole law. Everybody understand that? Without it, the law is not authenticated. So this seal contains his name, his title, and his territory. Moreover, I gave them my Sabbath to be a sign between me and them, that they may know that I am the Lord that sanctified them. So now, how do I show God that I am willing to obey him? Do I put up a big banner? Do I wear a certain dress? Do I put a certain hat on my head? Do I do whatever? Or do I just obey him and keep that day because he said so? Isn't that the greatest sign of all? If you just do it because he said so? Wow, that's fantastic. Now what if somebody else comes along and says, now hang on a second, what's going on here? Who do you think you are, obeying that precept and giving your allegiance to that power? I'm telling you, I don't want you to obey them, I want you to obey me. And I'm telling you, let's change this. Let's check who has authority in your life. Is it God or is it me? And I'm telling you, you better obey me rather than God. Would you have a problem? Yeah. Sure you'd have a problem. I always use another parable. I always tell the story of, let's say, for example, again, this is totally hypothetical, right? It's a nice parable. I always use it, and everybody always misunderstands it and they think it's really true, but it's not true. It's just a parable. Assume I'm married to my wife many years and I have children, and then one day some other bozo comes along. Is that an acceptable word in this country? I don't know. He comes along and he gets my wife to follow him, and she leaves me and moves in with this other guy, marries him, and takes the kids with him. Now I'm devastated. There she is with this other guy. And why she wants to choose this guy with the cauliflower ears and the buck teeth in the first place, I don't know, but she's off with him and she's left me. And now I had certain rules in my house. Let's say the kids have to be in bed at a certain time, or they have to do their homework, or they have to help in the house, and they're not allowed to watch bad stuff on television, and if they go out they have to be back at a reasonable time. Stuff like that, normal stuff. And this new guy says to the kids when they move in, listen, in this house, I'm the authority in your lives as far as this house is concerned, and I want you to keep your, live tidily and help in the house and not to be too late when you come home, and all the good things that I had as well. Would I have a problem with any of those rules that he made? Yes or no? No. I would have no problem with them whatsoever. But then he has one extra rule. And he says to my kids, listen, I have one extra rule. Your dad has had authority over you in the past. Your dad had authority over you in the past. But that is over. I am the new authority in your life, and you will obey me. And the kids say, hang on a second, we have visitation times with my dad on certain days. He only has that particular day which he has specified, because it's the right one or whatever. And this guy says, no way, you will listen to me, no longer to your dad. Would I have a problem with that rule? Yeah, I'd probably go around and modify his nose by turning it around 360 degrees, right? Now why does that rule irritate me? Because it affects my authority. Nobody messes with my authority when it comes to my kids. They're my kids too. Now God feels the same way. We are his kids. And another power comes along and says, I don't care about these other rules, but this particular one, the one that tests authority, you will obey me and not God. Hey, God says, I'll turn your nose around 360 degrees, whether you like it or not.
And he will.
And he will. It's going to happen. So God says, I gave them my Sabbath to be a sign between me and them, that they may know that I am the Lord that sanctifies them. Isaiah 58:13 says, if you turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight. I'm not talking about the way the Jews kept the Sabbath, a ritual where you do this and you're not allowed to do that, and you're not allowed to eat egg that was laid on the Sabbath, and you're not allowed to do this, that, and the other, walk so many yards or whatever. No, that's a burden. It says here, he called the Sabbath a delight, not the burden. The holy of the Lord, honorable, and shall honor him, and not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words. Then shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord, and I will cause you to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken it. He says, if you honor my authority in your life, and you spend it with me, and you allow me to sanctify you, you will be happy, and you will have the heritage of Jacob, which is eternal life. And what about the strangers? Did it apply only to the Jews this Sabbath day? Isaiah 56:6-7. All the sons of the stranger that join themselves to the Lord, to serve him and to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants, everyone that keeps the Sabbath. The Sabbath became the sign of your allegiance to the deity called Yahweh. It was the sign. Even them will I bring to my holy mountain, and make them joyful in my house of prayer. For mine house shall be called a house of prayer for all people. So if a stranger came, did he have to accept the Sabbath, yes or no?
Yes.
Sure, he had to accept the Sabbath. Deuteronomy 11:13-20, and it will be for you, if you will listen carefully to my commandments, which I command you today. Take heed to yourselves, that your heart may not be deceived. The commandments are the law. They're rigid. You cannot change them. And you turn aside and serve other gods and worship them. So is there a possibility that this conflict could arise? Yes or no? Certainly could. Therefore, now listen carefully. You shall lay up these my words in your hearts, talking about the commandments of God, and in your souls, and bind them for a sign upon your hand. Listen carefully now. On your hand, so that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. So where must the commandments of God be placed? On your hand and in your forehead. Wow! Is there a mark of a beast that must be placed on the hand or the forehead? Yes or no? Oh. But the commandments of God must be on your hand, on your forehead. Now the Jews were very clever. They wrote out the 10 commandments on a little plaque and stuck them on the hand and stuck them on the forehead, and therefore the deed was done. Ta-dum, 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 ta-da-dee-dee. I've got the law in my hand, I've got the law on my forehead. Big deal. Do you think that's what God had in mind? That would be so silly, it would be unbelievable. God never had that in mind. What did he have in mind when he said that? He said, tie them to your hand, act accordingly. Put them in there, think accordingly. Doesn't that make sense? It's got nothing to do with an outward sign. God